Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Momo versus MTG. Today we've been taking a look at one of my personal deck techs. It's a Knight Tribal deck with Sidar Jabari of Zhalfir. It's an upgraded precon. I was looking for a Knight Tribal commander. Originally was running a different commander, but then this came along and just cranked it up to 100 because they brought back the Eminence ability. So 1 mana, an Esper, you get a human knight with the Eminence ability. So this works whether he's in the command zone or on the battlefield, which is kind of crazy. So whenever you attack with one or more knights, draw a card and then discard a card. So on face value alone, um, I've been saying that you could probably make this into. It's probably one of the best just straight up reanimator commanders. If you have a couple cheap knights and then other big creatures you just want to reanimate, that's fantastic. This guy gives you the free looting option, which is pretty powerful. So that alone is crazy. So it has flying first strike, and whenever Sidar deals combat damage to a player, return target knight creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield for a 4/3. So it's a loaded commander, and especially extremely powerful in my eyes. And yeah, this is the engine building type deck where, you know, what you see is what you're going to get with how powerful the board state is. You can usually judge how far ahead or behind you are. Um, yeah, and it's just loaded with night creatures. We have 36 of them. Because every turn we want to be throwing a knight into the graveyard and then reanimating it if possible. So, yeah, without further ado, let's take a look right at what we're working with. Let's start with the ramp package. I always like to start here. Um, we have just your generic mana fixings, your Fellware, Arcane, all the talismans, and then the knights that do fix as well are added bonus. You know, Forsworn Paladin creates treasure tokens, which is pretty big. And Knight of the White Orchid puts you ahead if you're behind. The catch-up mechanic in white. Usually you don't need a lot of mana in this deck because you can stay pretty low to the ground with, getting up to your commander. And all the cheap knights that do the free looting for you usually churns through cards, fixes you on itself, depending on what you need. And lastly, Herald's Horn, right? Extremely strong. Knights are going to be costing less to cast anyways. And you get to be putting knight creature cards into your hand, 36 of them. We're going to be doing this a lot with Herald's Horn. It's almost like free card draw and cheapen the spells. And then let's go down the game plan. So we have all these cheap knights here. Forsworn Paladin, Changeling Outcast, Falmir Knight, Death Touch, so it's usually going to get through. I don't know too many people would be blocking this thing. Knights the Ebon Legion's nice as well, because it also grows and has a pump effect on top of it if someone does choose to block it. So you want to be looting every turn if possible, and the cheaper knights allow you to do this. The knights have Death Touch especially because, they're going to be wanting to let them go through. And then any other added bonus on top is nice. First strike here and stuff like that. And yeah, basically looting every turn until we get our commander. We can start reanimating these knights. Knights in particular that I've looked through are the ones that are regaining value as you go through the game. So, venturing into the dungeon, an adventure side knight so you can cast it later on. So early on, it's great to see this. Later on, also very strong because Smitten Swordmaster is going to drain your opponents, and then you're going to be getting life on top of it all. So effects like that are great. Just go down the list here. So Acclaimed Contender, 3 mana, gets you look a little deeper. Top 5 cards in your library for a knight or equipment or legendary artifact card. Usually you're hitting something off this every time. Then Adeline, very strong. Has vigilance and power equal to the number of creatures you control. So the more stuff we get on board, the more powered up we're going to get. And a secret commander to the deck is Hakon Stormgald Scourge. Very, very powerful commander on its own. A little tough to work around if you do go down that route, but basically, you may cast him. You may only cast him from your graveyard, but not from anywhere else. As long as Hakon is on the battlefield, you can cast night spells from your graveyard. When Hakon dies, you lose 2 life. So basically, another insurance to reanimate your knights. I've been in a situation before where I've have Hakon on the battlefield. Someone decides to remove my commander. Gets to my turn. Hey, I can cast them. Kind of cheat the command zone tax from the graveyard and do it all again. So nice recursion, especially for all our knights, is a very beautiful thing to have. I'll go as far as to, the reason why Entomb's in here, per se. Not the only reason why, but I'm usually trying to throw him in the bin as fast as possible so I can reanimate him later on or just cast him because he has that ability. In utility knights, we have Murderous Rider, destroys knights, destroys other creatures, I'm sorry. Very nice. Ariel was the Knight of Windgrace. This was originally the commander, so I just threw it in here. Nice utility for board control, creating knights. Lendra, always nice. Has a lifelink, can grow. All the nice utility knights. Cavalier Knight, we don't really mind sacking another creature, whether it's a token or a knight, because we can reanimate it. If we do, destroy another creature and recurs other creatures for 3 mana or less. And then other knights, we have Aethersworn Adjudicator. Nice utility, destroys creatures or enchantments and also untaps itself. So repeatable effects like this. It is a very grindy kind of win con there. Newer release in the Warhammer set. Has flash. Nice utility. All the utility knights that you can have is what you want. You want an answer for everything. Destroy attacking creature, and if it was a demon, exile instead. Like, this is nice stuff to have. With Hakon out, we can cast this from our graveyard as well. And then a nice fit here, also Warhammer, is a nice ETB on a knight that counters instant sorcery spell or activation or triggered ability. So this covers all your bases with flash speed as well, casting it from the graveyard. So we love to see these type of cards in the deck. And then the more expensive knights as well, we don't mind putting in because, deals combat damage, we are reanimating them for sure. And then since this is an upgraded precon, we have Vona, pay 7 life, repeatable, destroy permanent, nice utility. And then we have Alendra and Azora, which was the other commander in the deck. Can be its own build around too, but you're reanimating it for just an attack trigger, why not? Flying Ward 2. It's a draw card outlet and also create tokens equal to the number of cards you're drawing. So, you can create some tokens, all that. Very nice. Just feels good creatures that are in the deck in general. Power, toughness, number of creatures, creating knights as well. So this is all the real good stuff here. And then I want to go to the all-stars of the deck, which are these creatures. I'll start with Knight Exemplar. No, not Valor Knight. My apologies. So this effect here, super powerful. Pumps your team, great. Nice to have. For 5 mana, knights your team control have double strike. All the effects that give double strike to our knights, and in particular our commander, makes this deck go from 0. It is already extremely strong, but with double strike, it is a reanimating machine of a deck. Because it reads, whenever Sidar Jabari deals combat damage to a player, return target knight creature from your graveyard to the battlefield. Since it has first strike, we get Sidar's damage trigger first, in the combat phase, and even within the damage phase itself, there's multiple steps. If there's first strike, double strike or what have you, it gets the first strike trigger, which will allow you to reanimate a knight. So if you, with your attack evidence ability, discarded one of these double striking giving creatures, let's say Kinsbell Cavalier, you immediately get to reanimate it, and then Sidar will now deal regular combat damage as well, and you get to reanimate another knight on top of it all. So that's why these three creatures and Kendu Pride of Firmare only works usually with a commander, unless there's others, but creature first strike have double strike. Any of these allows you to accrue a ton of value, right? And that's what this deck is looking to do. So double reanimation per turn is something not to be trifled with. And then while reanimating, usually we grab a double striker first and then look into some sort of protection that we can grab as well, with one of our Knights trigger. I think an all-star deck, which should be in a lot more decks, is Unsettling Mariner is a shapeshifter changeling, so we can grab this. But it's basically Ward 1 for permanents, and includes our Knights. So it helps us keep our Knights around longer. And then even a Guardian of Faith we could grab if we really need to phase stuff out. Gives us a free turn cycle, which is nice. And then yeah, we're really looking to protect our board state. It's a very board-focused deck, in particular creatures. And then we're looking to connect with the commander. So probably one of the best creatures in deck came out with the precon. Is Herald of Hoofbeats. Gives other creatures horsemanship, which in commander usually means can't be blocked. And knights you control have horsemanship. And in all the Chrome with Will, gives us indestructible. Clever Concealment helps us phase out. And those effects are very powerful in the deck. While we're trying to keep our board sit around, it's not the worst if they remove it, because we have reanimation packages, or just straight up casting them from the graveyard. So it's this deck is annoying to deal with if you're, the opponent. And for you, it is usually easy to rebuild, especially from board wipes and such, for yourself. So that is the nice part about this deck. And just going down, let's take a look at what we got. In the precon, when the All-Stars Conjurer's Mantle allows you to dig through your deck whenever it attacks, so you can, stack the triggers, so you dig for a creature you want that you want to loot away with the Eminence ability. Cool. Grab that knight, then put it in the bin and reanimate it if Sidari's out. So we don't mind just looting our knights into the graveyard usually, right? Pirate Heroes, awesome fit in the deck. Definitely should throw it in. Birthing Pod for a tribal deck of the creature type. So we can even Birthing Pod into Sorcery Suite, right? Birthing Pod basically into one of our double striking creatures, which will give us a lot of value for our commander, and to reanimate the creature we sacrifice, per se. And I got 2 counter spells in here. You can have more, but I'm not big on counter spells, but you can run them. You want to take out some stuff, add some more. Definitely room to do that. Take a look at our draw package, which is like, again, our commander alone does it, but in the precon you have Chivalry Alliance. Talked about this in another video, but especially well because it creates knights and attack with 2 more creatures. Easy to do in this deck. Draw a card. You still want some card draw. Creating blood tokens on combat damage, great. Menace Lifelink, great. Card draw. It's just nice added bonus to the knights. Like, there's already enough utility knights. You can just throw in card draw. Midnight Reaper. Battle Tier Angels. Talk about this in my other Knights Tribal and Dragon video. Go down the list. Draw a card if they have more cards in hand than each other player. Same deal with Treasure, and you gain life. So, all the utility stuff, great. Did some melee, a nice big one-shot. If you have 10 knights, choose a creature type, draw a card for each permanent you control that type. You're drawing 10 cards for 4 mana, so A lot of value. And then Teferi's Aegis Insight is a slam dunk in this deck because the free loot with her Eminence ability triggers this. So we're now drawing 2, discarding 1. Just a ton of value. In the pre-con, Lothling Lancer came out. Cool. Token Knights dies. Lose a life, draw a card. Each opponent loses life when you draw a card, I'm sorry. So, extra value. And it's a 5/5 on top of it. In Sky Hussar, which is a card, a mechanic I really like. I wish they printed more of, Forecast. You know, it comes into play, untap all creatures you control for 5 mana. Sure, pretty good. Flying Human Knight. It's a knight. But the Forecast. Tap 2 untapped white and or blue creatures you control. Reveal Sky Hussar from your hand. Draw a card. Play this only during your upkeep. So it is essentially free, so long as you're okay with tapping 2 creatures. You can then untap them if you cast it. But a free card draw every turn. You just keep this in your hand, or you can reanimate it later on. Especially with the Sidar trigger, where all your knights are going to be tapped unless they have vigilance. When they attack, you can bring this back in and untap them for the crackback. Just tons of utility here. Really nice to see. And then All-Star Enchantment came out. I think the Commander Precon. There are knights you control. A knight you control attack. Each opponent loses 1 life. You gain a life. You know, per knight attacking. Super big. And then for a final hurrah for 8 mana, sacrifice, return all knight creature cards from your graveyard to the battlefield. Yeah. So tons of recursion, tons of protection. This and tons of fixing too. I'll say fixing in terms of looting. Like you can usually craft a decent hand a lot of the time. Because looting every turn, you want one of these early drops and you're just churning through cards. What do you want? What do you want to get later? And building so much value. A lot of fixing in here. Nothing too much of Nords to note. 34 lands, one of them being Malika Rebirth. You know, sure, extra protection, especially on your commander's nice. But yeah, you just want fixing. Path Ancestry, nice in the, you know, tribal decks, Cavern Souls, same thing. Cast your commander for sure, you want that to resolve. And then lastly, you know, Vault of the Archangels, nice utility land. Death Touch Lifelink, you want to be sticking around. I like to throw some secret lifelink into a lot of my decks to gain life. And then a big category we have here is all the pump effects. And I do like the battle cards here a lot. So if I can rotate this card, right? So already enters battlefield, sacrifice artifact creature. Sure, we don't mind sacking one of our cheap knights or token knights or artifacts. And to exile an artifact or creature opponent controls, very strong. And then, yeah, all these effects are going to be pumping your creatures even more. With her double strike, with her vigilance, with her... All these effects are going to go great because equipped creature attacks. Once you defeat this battle, it'll transform into the Holy Frazzle Cannon. Put a +1 counter on each creature and each other creature you control that shares a creature type with it. Fantastic. Especially if you're attacking your commander. It can do this almost for free. And if you do have extra mana laying around, pump it into Invasion and New Phyrexia. Create a ton of 2/2 white and blue knight creature tokens with vigilance, and then it flips later on to get emblems. That gives your knights +1/+0 and have ward. Draw cards. You discard your knights. Like this was just made for the deck. And then the last ability, tap X creatures you control. When you do, shuffle target non-land permanent opponent controls with mana value X or less into its owner library. So multi-utility purpose card, and six power on the battle's a little hard to defeat, but usually you can pull it off. Definitely in this deck. And then the rest, utility knight, tap another knight, cheap knight as well. +1/+0, +1/+0. Also, sacrifice a creature of the chosen type. Target creature you control gains indestructible till end of turn. So nice protection on high value target. Cough cough, namely your commander. And Yeah, I think a slam dunk deck is Haunted One, right? So for 3 mana, you get a background from Battles for Baldur's Gate. Commander creatures you own have, whenever this creature becomes tapped, and other creatures you control that share creature type with it, each get +2/+0 and gains Undying until end of turn. So when a creature with Undying dies, if it had no +1/+1 counters on it, return to the battlefield under its owner control with a +1/+1 counter. So a big buff to all the small knights and your entire knight board. And then if they do die, they come back stronger. A lot of our effects are just static, +1/+1. Not a lot of counters. We had Evasion, New Compenna doing that, the Holy Frazzle Cannon. But a lot of the effects are static, +1/+1. So this works especially well. And in Knight Exemplar, it might just be the best knight in the deck, right? Other knights creatures you control have +1/+1 and indestructible. Super powerful. Melee with your it has lieutenant. So as long as you have your commander out, other creatures get melee. So potentially +3/+3 to the entire board for a cheap body. Door and Destiny, this one will just definitely end games if left out and uncontested. So whenever you cast a spell of the chosen type, you're going to be putting counters on this. Reanimation doesn't count as casting, but you have enough cheap knights to cast with Hakon as well. Cast them from your graveyard again. Build those counters. Talk about Valiant Knight also has the +1/+1. Also card draw here, right? Pump effect and drawing card. No, sorry. Whenever you draw a card, put +1/+1 on each other knight. So for 4 mana, you get the free loot already for sure with the Eminence. And then, Teferi's Ageless Insight on top of it. You're just accruing so much value. And through True Conviction in here. Because, again, Lifelink is something I really like. And Double Strike. So, yeah. Big game plan. Get the cheap knights. Pump them up. And just for some last stuff to look at, we have 2 board wipes in here. We have a lot of single target removal. So, worst case, board wipes come into play. Conjure Dominance, Slam Dunk. Because, one-sided board wipes, always good. And we don't mind, returning something to her hand, having everything else die, and to be able to just play it all again with her Hakon Knight or reanimating with her Commander. And another Entomb effect. We could just put 3 of the best knights straight up into the graveyard, which is really nice. And Rite of Oblivion, another one of my favorite staples. Just repeatable, destroy permanent effects. So this is the deck in a nutshell. It's a lot of the precon, but a lot of stuff has been upgraded as well. A lot of the knights are the same from the precon. Some, added in here and there. But, yeah. Deck super easier to pilot, but there's some fun interactions with the double strike you can pull off. And, yeah, it's a brute force, building value, and recovers from board wipes easily kind of deck. And it's pretty strong. Even off the gates, as a pure precon, I'd say very powerful, but this brings it to the higher end of casual for sure. Feels pretty oppressive to play against. People saying I hate your deck. But yeah, if you did enjoy, please let me know your thoughts down below. If there are other things you'd like to see, also let me know. And while you're down there, leave a like, subscribe if you did enjoy, and see you in the next one. Take care.